Going to do with me anyway that you want to interview me in, because there was some incorrect information that appeared about the Moors Ford movement 2 weeks ago, and it was not intentional. It was just people trying to help us, but they didn't have the facts. So I want to set that straight, and I hope you can post it and disseminate it so that people understand the real story behind Moors Ford and what's been going on with us since 2012, 2013, and then you can do whatever else you want to do, but we'll talk about that after you finish with me. So the first thing I want to do is get that cleared up first on the first part, and then take your questions about the second part about what's going on right now, the uprising right now. So let me do that first. Hello, my friends. This is Representative Tyrone Brooks, chair of the Moors Ford movement, which is an affiliate of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s organization, Ralph David Abernathy, Joseph Lowry, C.T. Vivian, etc. Fred Shuttleworth, C.K. Steele, Charles Steele. I want to, first of all, set the record straight in terms of America's last mass lynching, Monroe, Georgia, Walton County, which is in metro Atlanta. I was 22 years old in 1968 when Dr. King was assassinated by our government, led by J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI. Jose Williams, on the instructions of Dr. King and Abernathy, assigned me to America's last mass lynching on March 23, 1968. We were in Macon, Georgia at a rally before Dr. King and Abernathy returned to Memphis to help the sanitation workers. Willie Boland, the late Willie Boland, and I were assigned to go to Monroe to work on the Moors Ford Bridge lynching, which was on Dr. King's agenda. Dr. King was 16 years old when America's last mass lynching occurred in Monroe, Georgia. George Dorsey, Mamie Dorsey, Roger Malcolm, Dorothy Malcolm, and Dorothy's 7-month-old baby that she had not birthed were lynched on the Moors Ford Bridge because they dared to vote. I didn't know anything about this case until I was 21, 22 years old. I had no knowledge of it until the undertaker who buried them gave me the history. So that's where I was on April 4th, 1968 when Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis. I went to Memphis that night. I drove Willie Boland's car all the way to Memphis that night on orders from Dr. Abernathy. So this has been a case that's been a part of my life for 52 years. I was assigned to it. I didn't want the assignment. I tried to get out of it. So what we've tried to do is carry on this movement to keep America's attention on America's last mass lynching and the fact that no one has ever been arrested or charged with this heinous crime that's still a part of our movement. 2 weeks ago, of course, there were some people who were trying to be informative who disseminated incorrect information regarding the state of Georgia and the federal government. The state of Georgia has never been our enemy in this fight. The state of Georgia has supported our movement. The state of Georgia passed a resolution that I introduced in 1999 on the floor of the House of Representatives, passed unanimously, calling for the arrest and prosecution of those who were involved in America's last mass lynching at Moors Ford Bridge, Monroe, Georgia. Lawmakers from that region of the state, from Walton County, signed the resolution and supported it in 1999. Of course, Roy Barnes had been elected governor in 1998, and of course he began to give us support by reopening the case. So the state of Georgia has not been a problem for us in working on Moors Ford. The other thing is, 2 or 3 years ago, when we were attacked by the federal government, it was not the state of Georgia, it was the federal government. It was a U.S. attorney from the Northern District of Georgia that attacked us. Her name is Sally DeBogan Quillian Yates. I had chaired Cynthia McKinney's campaign when she was in Congress over 12 years, and Sally Yates' husband ran against Cynthia in 1996. We defeated him. His name is Coma Yates. So she always carried a grudge against me. And in 2013, it became public that she was trying to close down the Moors Ford movement by attacking me, but not just me as an individual. She attacked the whole movement. She attacked those who were surrounding us and working with us all across the state of Georgia. Many people have died who were connected to me personally and the movement. My mother died on June 27, 2009 of a broken heart because she knew that the government was investigating her son again around my civil rights work. That started in early 2009, and my mother died on June 27, 2009. Then Ed Brown, former state president of the NAACP over in Camilla, Georgia, Commissioner Ed Brown over in Camilla, Georgia, which is Mitchell County between Albany and Thomasville, died because of harassment from the FBI. He would call me up and tell me that they were coming out of Thomasville, Georgia. They were harassing him because he couldn't say anything bad about me. They were trying to dig up whatever they could to really stop the Moors Ford movement. Mary Emma Gresham, the mayor of Keysville, the first black mayor of Keysville, who became my political godmother, she died 2 years ago. And really, she carried a heavy burden on her because the FBI was harassing her. She was down in Keysville defending me and telling people, told the New York Times in May of 2013 that the government was harassing her, and the only thing she had to say about me was good stuff. And the only reason the little town came back to life was because I came down to lead a contingent of civil rights workers and elected officials to help them revive the town. She died. She died of a broken heart too, and I believe the harassment from the government contributed to her dying. And I spoke at her funeral. Robert Howard, who was the SCLC president in Walton County for many years, from 1968 up until just a few years ago, who was our leader in Monroe, Walton County, social circle. He was harassed by the government. He had a nervous breakdown, and he now has Alzheimer's. It started with dementia, now it's full Alzheimer's. He doesn't hardly know his family anymore. He doesn't know his wife, he doesn't know most days, and he certainly doesn't know me anymore. He lives in Covington now with his wife, Rachel. The First African Baptist Church in Monroe, where we have been working since 1968, is our base in Walton County around this case. They have been harassed. Deacon Ron Brown and others from the church have been harassed, called before a federal grand jury, etc. So what I'm trying to do is let everybody know who saw that information 2 weeks ago, know that it's never been the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia, through the Georgia State Patrol, the GBI, have been supportive. And I can tell you this, were it not for the Georgia State Patrol and the GBI, I probably would be dead right now. Because many of those state troopers, some are still living today. Robert Hightower, the first black state trooper hired in the state when Lester Maddox was governor, he lives on Cascade Road right next to Dr. Walter Young. Willie Burns over in Washington, Georgia, who became my little brother, former mayor of Washington, Georgia, used to escort me around the state. Eddie Smith from Covington, Patrick over in Macon. All of these are troopers who can relate to the fact that they gave me security. Sergeant Murray from the Middle Georgia area. If it were not for these troopers being with me, Myron Freeman, who was assigned to the King Center for many years, who became sheriff of Fulton County, another one. I don't want to miss them. But going back to the 70s, it was Walt Stepney, and Lucia Solomon, who were part of the Civil Disorders Unit. These are people from law enforcement who embraced us before I got elected in 1980 to the House of Representatives, who gave us support from the state of Georgia. Coming on up to the city of Atlanta in 1980, lawmakers and elected officials who were supporting me for the House of Representatives, and Atlanta police officers, the Afro-American Patrolmen's League led by Floyd Reeves, who's still alive. These police officers, W.D. Cameron, DeWitt Smith from DeKalb County, Chucky Wilson, Buck Moore, Members Brown. These law enforcement officers would come to SCLC headquarters of Auburn in their uniform, come into the back, change clothes in our conference room, and then hit the streets with jeans and t-shirts to knock on doors in Atlanta to get me elected. So law enforcement from Atlanta and the state of Georgia has never been our enemy. They've always been supportive. Many of these officers are still alive today. So I'm giving you this history so that you will understand the context in which I'm trying to bring you today. That the enemy of the Moors Ford movement has been the federal government. In 1946, the FBI, the federal government, decided they weren't going to prosecute those Klansmen who murdered the Malcolm and Dorsey's on the Moors Ford Bridge. In 1981, the soldier, Lynn McKinley Jackson, 22 years old, stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, came home on leave and was lynched in Monroe. He was absolutely innocent of any crime. He just happened to be dating a white girl, and he was captured by the Klan and lynched in 1981. So we worked on that case, and Dr. Ralph Abernathy, and Hosea William, Willie Bolin, Ava Mabel Thomas, who now is a legislator. She was a student at Georgia State. We led a march from the Social Circuit of Monroe in 1982, February the 20th, to protest the lynching of this soldier. No one has ever been arrested or prosecuted. So I wanted to say up front that the enemy of our movement has been the federal government and not the state government. Dr. King, the greatest we've had since Jesus Christ, was a civil rights leader who was assassinated because of his work. A nonviolent Prince of Peace was killed because he was leading the nonviolent revolution. And I'm just so honored and thankful that God allowed me to come into his organization and to be on his staff in 1968 at the age of 22 when he was taken away from us by the federal government. And that's really what I wanted to say at the beginning of this interview, Clyde. I appreciate you giving me that, because it's very important for people to understand the truth and the facts of our movement and why our movement has been attacked. We're continuing on. I was in Monroe 2 days ago. We are going to be conducting the 17th annual reenactment on July 25th to remember the Malcolms and Dorsey's in Monroe, Georgia. This movement is not going away. It's America's burden. It's America's sin, and we are going to continue to work until we remove this stain from our history. They may not prosecute anyone for this horrible crime, but we're taking the case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court right now so that we can get access to the grand jury files from 1946 regarding the Moores Ford Bridge lynching. Attorney Joe Bell up in Newark, New Jersey, is the lawyer spearheading that case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we hope the U.S. Supreme Court will grant us access to the grand jury transcripts that were developed around the hearings in 1946 in Clark County, right next door to Monroe, Athens, because they couldn't do it in Monroe. It was too dangerous. So, Clyde, that's all I want to say to open up this interview, and I know now you have questions for me.